Hi, this is Zulfiqar and you're watching Social Sciences.
If any area of philosophy has a claim to be practical, it is moral philosophy. The subject matter of moral philosophy is quite interesting as it targets emotive and controversial issues in life. But while philosophers have been concerned to discover how we should live, moral philosophy is best understood as the attempt to think critically and reflectively about right and wrong, good and bad. In every stage of life, we get to know from people that we are doing wrong. Parents, teachers, and other elders constantly dictate us to behave well. With age, our social circle increases, so does our social influence. Now, the issues related to ethics and morals become complex for us as we became more responsible and perform a number of obligations. Thus, our actions have greater impact on other individuals.
It is observed that in our daily life we use terms morals and ethics interchangeably. Before moving ahead, it is necessary to explore the difference between both terms, if is it so. Ethics is often used in connection with the activities of organizations and with professional codes of conduct. For instance, medical and business ethics, which are often formalized in terms of exhaustive sets of rules or guidelines, stating how employees are expected to behave in their workplaces, such as in respect of a duty of care or confidentiality that healthcare workers owe to their patients, or the medical ethical principles, respect for autonomy and justice. Morals, on the other hand, is more often used in connection with the ways in which individuals conduct their personal private lives, often in relation to personal financial property, lawful conduct, and acceptable standards of interpersonal behaviors, including truthfulness, honesty, and sexual propriety. It is not necessary that a clear division between private and public life exists, as sometimes private moral conduct crosses the line into public ethics. The etymology also shows that both terms, ethics and morals, share a similar origin. Aristotle used the term ethikos to refer ethics, and later Caesarea used the term moralis as equivalent to Greek term ethikos. There are three broad areas of ethical study, that is metaethics, normative ethics, and applied ethics. Meta is a Greek word that means either above, beyond, or after. Metaethics is the study of the very ideas of right and wrong, good and bad, the concepts that ethics takes for granted. Metaethics focuses on the meaning of ethical terms, for instance, what is right, and on questions of how ethical knowledge is obtained. For instance, how can I distinguish what is good from what is bad? Rather than on the more applied questions of what should I do in a particular situation. Metaethics is therefore concerned with the nature of ethical properties, statements, attitudes, and judgments. Metaethics examines such themes as what moral questions mean and on what basis people can know what is true or false. Now, talking about normative ethics. Normative ethics, in contrast, is the study of ethical acts. It therefore focuses explicitly on questions of what is the right thing to do in general. Normative ethics is concerned with questions of what people ought to do and on how people can decide what the correct moral actions to take are. We can try to understand these ideas by looking at our actions themselves, or through examining the consequences of our actions, or by looking at the types of people we can be or become. Applied ethics, which is concerned with how people can achieve moral outcomes in specific situations. Therefore, it is concerned with the philosophical examination of particular and often complex issues that involve moral judgments. Areas such as bioethics, environmental ethics, development ethics, and business corporate ethics may be regarded as areas of applied ethics. The distinction between normative and applied ethics, however, is becoming increasingly blurred. Of course, there are connections between these three approaches to morality, although just what the connections are is the subject of ongoing philosophical debate. For example, if moral judgments are simply expressions of feeling rather than statements that can be correct or incorrect, is practical ethics pointless? The idea that morality is grounded in human nature has been used in both normative ethics and meta ethics. Morality relates not only to practical situations but to ideas about human nature and how moral values fit into our scientific conception of the world. Morality presents itself as a guide to how we should live and act. Now we are going to discuss main theories in normative ethics that tell us what morality is all about and help to describe what is important about living morally or ethically. Ethical theories provide a framework for making morally correct decisions. It resolves dispute between right and wrong. These theories maintain order and explain the world to us so we're better able to understand surroundings and consequently making proper decisions. The English philosopher and political thinker Jeremy Bentham is the modern father of utilitarianism. He defended the greatest happiness principle, which claims that an action is right if and only if it leads to the greatest happiness of the greatest number of people it affects. As such, actions are judged not in themselves but in terms of what consequences they have. For example, a lie that maximized happiness would be morally good. Bentham also argued that happiness is simply pleasure and the absence of pain, and that the total amount of happiness produced by an action is the sum total of everyone's pleasures produced, minus the sum total of everyone's pain. John Stuart Mill also believed that evaluation of ethics can be judged through associated outcomes. If your action has utility, it means it is morally right. But his idea of utilitarianism is not as simple as Bentham. John Stuart Mill argued that human happiness is more complex than Bentham thought. Pleasures and pains are not all equally important. Some types of pleasure are higher than the others and more important to human happiness. If everyone compares two pleasures and agrees that the first is more desirable and valuable than the second, then the first is a higher pleasure. To make one pleasure more valuable, people have to prefer it, even if having that pleasure brings more pain with it. Now let's discuss the point of view of moral philosophers. Moral philosophers pay special attention to the intentions of the moral agent. For them, intentions of the person dictates an action as morally right or wrong. Whereas utilitarianists are not particularly concerned with the intentions of moral agent. Instead, their interest lies in the results or consequences of our actions, which explains why utilitarians are part of a large school of ethical thought called consequentialism. Virtue ethics is also concerned with the intentions of moral agents. For them, a virtuous person is someone who has morally good traits of character. We can argue that an action is right if it is in an action that a virtuous person would take. A right action then will express morally good traits of character, and this is what makes it right. For example, telling the truth expresses honesty. A virtue of character is a character trait that disposes us to feel desires and emotions well, rather than badly. Our main aim, therefore, should be to develop the virtues, because then we will know what it is right to do and we will want to do it. Aristotle argues that virtues are qualities that help virtue ethics a person to live well, an achievement defined by human nature. His terms for living well, eudaimonia, has been translated as happiness, but the idea is closer to flourishing. We have an idea of what it is for a plant or an animal to flourish, and we can provide an analysis of its needs and judge when those needs are met. According to virtue theory, moral philosophy should concern itself with defining similar conditions for growth in the lives of human beings. In order to flourish and develop good character, we need to cultivate moral virtues such as courage, generosity, and temperance in our daily actions. Now we are going to discuss about deontological ethical theories. These theories are non-consequentialist. This means that they place the emphasis on the decision or action itself, on the motivations, principles, or ideas underlying the decision or action, rather than being concerned with the outcomes or consequences of that decision or action. This reasoning is founded on the desirability of principle, usually duties or rights, to act in a given situation. The two main non-consequentialist theories are ethics of duties and the ethics of rights and justice. Both of these are rooted in assumptions about universal rights and wrongs and responsibilities. This means that people who promote these types of ethical principles usually believe that they should be applied to everyone, everywhere in this world. If a child in one country has a right to education, then this means that all children, everyone in the world, should have a right to an education. So, this is all about today's lecture. Now, do let me know which theory is best for the interpretation of actions. Do comment in the section below. See you next time. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel.